we go in three, two, one. It is part four, the final part of our series on EA Sports College Football 25. Who would Vandy's all time cover be? This is going to be exciting. Let's get after it.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome into the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Corey Burton. Did you know I was a former Rivals employee and a high school football coach? Well, now you do. On today's episode, we kick off part four, which is the final part in our series in honor of the release of EA Sports College Football 25. We're going to look at who would be on the cover of the game for Vanderbilt if they did a cover for the all-time best. Like I said, I'm presenting you with 12 options. This is options 10, 11, and 12. And this was based on the feedback that you gave me and some of my own opinion as well. We're gonna eventually narrow it down to one. For the front cover, maybe even a second for the back cover, but we're gonna take a look at that. So far, we've Jordan Matthews, Earl Bennett, Ralph Webb, Jamie Winborn, Jamie Duncan, Chris Williams, Deo. We got Deo, Odengbo. It's been a long week at school, so we've got a lot of names that we've gone over recently. So we're going to continue on with that list. Like I said, today we got Jay Cutler, Hunter Hillenmeyer, and Corey Chavis. So thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Nissan. This episode is brought to you by Nissan. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further? Ever wonder what adventure could be around the next corner? Take Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Check them all out today at nissanusa.com. So up first, we're going to talk about Jay Cutler. Okay, Jay Cutler, probably the most successful quarterback in Vanderbilt history. He played for a few teams there: Chicago Bears, Denver Broncos, and the Miami Dolphins. He is, again, when you think of Vanderbilt, probably the first name on everybody's mind, and of course it's because it's a quarterback, but it is Jay Cutler. So it was a very storied career. Jay Cutler and I are the same age, so that's cool. And this is going to be a fun one to do. So for Jay Cutler, he was drafted in the first round of the 2006 NFL Draft by the Denver Broncos. He earned a Pro Bowl honors in 2008. He was then traded to the Bears. He played 8 seasons there. He led the Bears to a division title and an NFC Championship game appearance, and then spent 1 year with the Miami Dolphins. And he was named among the 100 greatest Chicago Bears of all time in 2019. So that's a little bit of his that's a little bit of his NFL honors. For Jay Cutler at Vanderbilt, his laundry list: he played 2002 to 2005. He became one of the foundation pieces that pushed and led the program to what it is, or what it was in the mid 2000s. Vandy was well in the tank. They've had a smattering of stars up to this point, but Jay Cutler during these years, and then when Earl Bennett came onto the scene, it was absolutely this team absolutely drastically improved. They beat Tennessee in 2005, the pride of Santa Claus, Indiana. So he was only the second 3-time captain in program history. He was SEC Offensive Player of the Year in 2005, first team All SEC in 2005, 3-time Vanderbilt Most Valuable Offensive Back. He's established numerous school passing and total offense records. threw for 59 touchdowns and 8,697 career yards. Both of those are records as well. The last pass he threw was a game-winning touchdown against Tennessee. Unfortunately, they were not bowl eligible that year, but that was probably the game that ignited um, a Vanderbilt team that eventually became back-to-back back-to-back 9-win seasons under James Franklin. A lot more NFL guys coming out of that era a little bit, but it kind of started with Jay Cutler. Uh, he started a foundation to help young people overcome the effects of diabetes. And like I said, he was a first round draft pick. So some of the things that Jay Cutler, some of the things that he brought to the table, as far as in college, his toughness, I think, was probably the most. It was probably the most common, or the best thing that he brought to the table. He was constantly under duress, and he just kept battling. That toughness obviously ignited his team around him. 2005 was easily his best season. He was he was an integral part in victories over Wake Forest, Arkansas, Ole Miss, Richmond, and Tennessee. He had 273 completions and 21 touchdowns, and ranked second in the school single season list. That was in 2005. And he was just absolutely unstoppable. I mean, the pass that Earl Bennett caught against Tennessee, there was four bodies around him, and he threw it in the only spot that only Earl Bennett could catch it, and Earl Bennett had no choice but to catch it. So it was a very important play in series history too, because up until then Tennessee had owned the series. I don't think Vanderbilt had done too well against Tennessee up until that point. Then it became more even after that for years to come. He was a finalist for the Johnny Unitas Golden Arm Award, nation's top senior quarterback. He was the first team All SEC pick that year, and again had a bunch of records and things like that with total offense. He was a 3-year captain, 4-year starter, set a bunch of records. He is inducted in 2016 into the Vanderbilt Athletics Hall of Fame, and the dude was he was outstanding, and he was really good as a pro too. He was one of those that just kind of got the job done. You know, it didn't look flashy at times. He was definitely not a flashy guy, but the confidence and the toughness are the things that kind of stand out intangibly. Well, the intangibles of things that stand out there. But I remember watching him against Florida in 2005. I think it was it was in Gainesville, and Vanderbilt put up 42 points. They nearly upset the Gators, who were ranked 13th. I remember this game; they were going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. They got it into overtime, and they got it to the second overtime after a controversial excessive celebration penalty. It prevented them from going for two. They had a really long field to get. So they ended up losing 49-42, but this was a game that it just felt like Jay Cutler was on fire. He couldn't miss. He was dialed in. They were moving the ball, and didn't seem like Florida had that many answers. And this was not a 13th ranked Florida Gator. This was a good. I think this was Urban Meyer's first year, maybe. And they just looked overwhelmed. Jay Cutler had them spread out, had them running all over the place. They couldn't stop Earl Bennett. They just had a really good game plan there, and Jay Cutler was hard to stop. Same with the game against Ole Miss in that season. I mean, it was just kind of Jay Cutler doing his thing. I mean, that was kind of something that he did, and and it's not like he took a talented roster, and it's not like he took like the the Alabama roster or the Georgia roster at the time or LSU's roster in there and played against Florida. It was a bunch of guys that, as John Lynch said, a bunch of doctors and lawyers, and they came in there and nearly knocked off the Gators. And the reason they were almost bowl eligible but not quite is the depth of the roster at Vanderbilt. And he just took the leadership was impeccable. The things that he could do, the talent that he had, the plays that he made were outstanding. So I think he's this could be a perfect fit for the cover of EA Sports College Football 2025. So you're gonna have to let me know what you think. And we're gonna, Hunter Hillenmeyer is another interesting one. Him and Jay Cutler ended up becoming teammates with the Chicago Bears. We'll talk about Hunter Hillenmeyer, and they actually joined Earl Bennett with the Bears, so it became Vandy North. So we're going to talk about Hunter Hillenmeyer here in just a second. Stay tuned. All right. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further? Well, Nissan has you covered. Do you ever wonder what adventure could be around the next corner? Again, our friends at Nissan have a lineup of SUVs with the capabilities to take your adventure to the next level. The 2024 Nissan Rogue is perfect for city drives and great escapes. Has class exclusive Google built-in, is your always updating assistant to call on for almost anything. Gone are the days of connecting your phone. Google Assistant, Google Maps, and Google Play Store are all built right into the 12.3-inch HD touchscreen infotainment system. The 2024 Rogue is perfect midsize crossover for your next adventure. So, Nissan's incredible lineup also includes the 2024 Nissan Pathfinder and the 2024 Nissan Armada. I like the Armada because it is a full-size SUV, and it will change the way you view a full-size SUV. Picture this. It's a rugged 4x4 that can seat up to 8 in first-class luxury and style. You can tow bigger and explore further in the 2024 Nissan Armada. So take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Shop nissanusa.com. All right, welcome back. Locked On Vandy. Thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. And speaking of every day, thank you to the everydayers for making all of this possible. Without you guys, I wouldn't be here and I wouldn't be doing this segment. I think this is a pretty cool segment. We're looking at 12 of Vandy's all-time greats. I know the list goes beyond 12, but I had to make the tough task of picking 12. Not everyone that listens is going to be happy with this 12, but this is your chance to give feedback in the comment section and all of that stuff. So this will be fun. So looking at Hunter Hillenmeyer next. What you should also be looking at next is Locked On SEC. Watch that after you finish this episode and after you finish yelling at me like, why isn't So Hunter Hillenmeyer, Chicago Bears. This is a good one. He was drafted by the Green Bay Packers in the 5th round of the 2003 NFL draft and played for the Bears from 2003 to 2010. So this one's interesting. Him and Jay Cutler overlapped in college, and then they eventually became teammates as well. So this is a very, very interesting deal here. And so Hunter Hillenmeyer played linebacker, and he was kind of one of the first of like the edge linebacker guys. But he's a local product here in Nashville, right down the road at MBA, Harding Academy, MBA. He was 2-time All-State, All-Region, All-District, all that good stuff. In high school, college, he was a 4-year letter winner from 99 to 2002. He started his final 23 games, tallying 249 tackles, 165 solos, and 6.5 sacks. As a senior, he was one of 6 Division I-A football National Scholar athletes, earned first team All SEC and first team All Academic or first team academic All American honors while leading the nation in tackles per game at 14.0. So for Hunter Hillenmeyer, man, he transcended kind of he kind of revamped. He was part of like a revamp of uh, the linebacker defensive end guy, the big defensive end that could stand up and run. And he was kind of the strong side guy. That's kind of what he brought to the table because he was super athletic as a defensive end, was more than capable of playing standing up or coming off the edge with his hand in the dirt. So he did all of this stuff in college. Um, Vanderbilt was just terrible 1999 to 2002. Um, they were starting to get better towards the end of his career, but he was uh, he was part of some not so great teams there. But again, he kind of stood out, and he did everything he did in college, he did in the pros as well. So um, in Chicago, so how he got to Chicago, he played most of 2003. Um, he got cut at the end of training camp by the Green Bay Packers. Was He got drafted by the Packers, got cut, and then immediately picked up by the Bears. He played special teams there for that season. He had 12 special teams tackles as a rookie, played 13 games on special teams, and he became the starter at strong side linebacker the next year in their schemes. He started 11 games while appearing in all 16. He made 90 tackles, 2.5 sacks. Um, he became a fixture in that defense. Now, if you remember those Chicago Bear defenses, like for him to be recognized by name in those defenses is incredible. And I know most of his highlights come from his professional career, but what he did in college was like he was kind of like he obviously leading the nation in tackles per game at 14.0 is no slouching stat. He made first team all conference, so obviously he's doing some really really good things. But like to stand out amongst your peers, especially, he didn't necessarily do that at Vanderbilt. He didn't like a lot of these guys have a laundry list of honors, but he was just one of those. He just played one of those positions where you have to be extraordinarily spectacular. Somebody like Julius Peppers, who he was competing with for national prominence, um, and guys like that they got the recognition. He didn't. He just made his plays, man. He was remarkably solid, and that's what got him drafted. Not overly heralded coming out of college, but developed into a really really nice pro. I think he played 10 seasons uh, with uh, with the Chicago Bears. If you remember anything about those defenses, they had Brian Urlacher, Lance Briggs were two of the big time guys. Alex Brown. Also, those defensive front guys were just absolutely nasty. And Hillemeyer, for him to kind of break in there, become one of the names that um, everyone knew from that defense was an absolute big deal, especially if you have Urlacher, Briggs, and Alex Brown. So the Chicago Times called him underrated, um, and Alex Brown gave him the nickname Triple H Hunter Hillenmeyer. And of course, I guess he couldn't go with Triple H for obvious reasons because of Degeneration X, but it was good that he was getting recognition for all of his accolades and all of his efforts and his his abilities on the field. He got better every year, and just was a guy that was just going to work his way through, um, work his way into the starting lineup and then work his way into excelling in the starting lineup. So it was very impressive to watch him play. Just had, you know, the things you would typically say about a guy like Hunter Hillemeyers. He had that high motor. He was a playmaker, and he just honestly he just got it done. And unfortunately, um, he was placed on injured reserve in 2010 after after sustaining a severe concussion. He was released by the Bears in 2011 to only to never play again in the NFL. So his career was cut short. He also had a stint at inside linebacker or the Mike linebacker in place of Brian Urlacher. because he's a versatile guy, and that's kind of what made him what he was. So Hunter Hillenmeyer, um, he was nicknamed Triple H. He was always kind of underrated as a player, and he just blew all of that stuff away. And he was remarkable. He was a pretty remarkable guy. One of the most successful defensive linemen slash linebackers to come through Vandy. So that's Hunter Hillmeyer. So last and certainly not least, he just happened to be the guy on the end of the list there. But somebody had to be. But it's going to be Corey Chavis. We're going to talk about him in here in just a second. So you don't want to go away for this. Stay tuned. All right, FanDuel. That's right. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same game parlays, exclusive props, and more. So just visit fanduel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel is the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. All right, we're reaching our final segment here on a Thursday, talking about Corey Chavis. Okay. If you guys know Corey Chavis, he had a pretty good 11-season career in the National Football League, playing both safety and corner. Corey Chavis he is currently a color analyst for college football games as well as the NFL draft for CBS Sports. He was a second-round draft pick in the 1998 draft by the Arizona Cardinals. Excelled there before coming to the Minnesota Vikings, where he enjoyed an outstanding career and then finished off with the St. Louis Rams. So while at Vanderbilt, he finished his career with 12 interceptions, which ranks 6th on the school's all-time list, made 199 tackles, batted down 31 passes, and I believe he was named to the SEC Legends list. Again, he played at Vanderbilt from, looks like he was drafted in 98, so he played 94 to 97, 93 to 97. But this was a team where, again, they weren't, Vandy was in a brutal stretch, right? They weren't the James Franklin Vanderbilt Commodores, I can tell you that. And you had to kind of stand out. And they were in an era of like, yeah, they had a player here, they had a player there. So like they had Jamie Winborn, they had Corey Chavis, but like they never had that complete team. And so oftentimes these guys would get overshadowed. So he may have been a first round talent, and he got selected 33rd overall. So it's not like he was very far into the second round. So but he was somebody that wasn't afraid to tackle, really go with the ball in the air, and just kind of happened to make plays. And that was good enough for the Arizona Cardinals to say, okay, we're not going to let you get out of the second round. So he played in all 16 games as a rookie, started 5. He had 28 tackles and 2 picks. He was an integral part of the team's 1999 wild card playoff win over the Cowboys. I remember that being a huge deal. That was kind of like where the first time in the 90s where you saw the Cowboys were like, oh, well, they are human, right? Corey Chavis became an island, right? He became somebody you didn't want to mess with. And 99, he played in 15 games. He had 40 tackles and a pick. And then he had 48 tackles in a pick in the 2000 season. And he had 74 tackles and 1 pick in his final season in 2001 with the Cardinals. And he, at that point, he had become he had become a prized free agent, and he earned his contract with the Minnesota Vikings. And from there, he excelled. He had a 2004 Pro Bowl season. He had a bunch of tackles still, some picks. It just didn't seem like they were going his way very much. which as a cornerback, that's really, really good. And in 2006, he signed with the St. Louis Rams, and he was an analyst too during their draft coverage, kind of like a player analyst. In his first season, he equaled his career high of 86 tackles and made 1 interception. In 08, he started 14 games, 75 tackles, 3.5 sacks. All right, and then 09, he was released, and I believe never to return. So a pretty good career. A bunch of tackles. Like as a cornerback, when you see a corner that has a lot of tackles, that says a lot about your defensive front, or it just says that teams are trying you on the perimeter, or they're trying to throw some quick screens and you're blowing it up, and then they're not getting much on you. So as far as the interceptions, I don't mind seeing the interception totals low, because as a cornerback, if your interception totals are low, it means they're just going to the other side. It means you're doing such a good job that they're not even trying you. And so he was one that I remember you had to worry about him. I remember him most when he was playing his like final year or two with the Cardinals, and then especially when he was with the Vikings. That's where I kind of knew him the most, because he was I would draft him in Madden. He was so difficult to to game plan for, I'm sure. And so he was like that in college. Unfortunately for Vandy, they didn't have a whole lot of Corey Chavises, and they could have benefited from that. So he was exciting to watch. He was a lockdown guy. He was somebody that had some toughness to him, had a little bit of, as they say now, that dog. He had that dog in him, and so he was not afraid of anybody. He would trash talk you. He would make sure that you knew he was going to guard you, and make sure you knew that you were not going to be open. And so he had a little bit of a swagger about himself that kind of earned him these roles. And it didn't really earn him a lot. It didn't really earn him any accolades in college, really. But it did earn him the chance to be drafted in the second round and have a long, steady career in the NFL. And so he's a broadcaster now, which is fun. But he is and he does a really, really good job of that too. So I'm excited for him, and I'm glad he's able to he's able to continue to live out his dream of being a broadcaster and stay within the game. So like I said, he was a really good tackler, somebody that took pride in tackling, and he wasn't scared of you. A big running back. There's a picture of him tackling Larry Johnson. So he was just a special guy, and he could help turn you around a little bit. He could he just did a lot of really good things in the NFL, and he had a lot of really good highlights. And again, he was just tough to play against, truthfully. And he was forcing special teams. He was just a tough guy, good leader, somebody you wanted on your defense. Great communicator, obviously, because he's doing the broadcast thing. So Corey Chavis is the final name on this list, and he deserves it, absolutely. And he deserves it because he played in an era that was not very good for Vanderbilt football. Let me just look up the stats on that. Vandy football 1994. They were 5-6 overall, 2-6 in the league. They in 94. Let's look up 97. All right, he was. They were 3-8, so they weren't very good, and as a team. But he was good enough as a player, so he's not earning a whole lot of accolades on teams like that. And that's the tough part about some of these guys. Some of these guys earned some accolades because they were on some better teams and had some better things around them. But as a cornerback, it's really, really hard to do that. So that's why I wanted to give him some love, and that's why I want to give him some shine, because he had a really nice NFL career, and it started developing at Vanderbilt. So anyway, a few notable honorable mention guys that didn't quite make this list to have a whole segment devoted to them. But want to shout out Javon Hay, defensive lineman, and for what he means to this defensive line room. He is currently coaching for the Commodores, and so he is the epitome of pouring your heart and soul into the program and helping in every single way that you can. You have Wesley Johnson and Ryan Seymour, had really nice NFL careers in the offensive line, kind of like made a name for Vandy offensive lineman. Chris Williams obviously got it started, but those guys kind of carried the torch, and they were really good for their respective franchises after moving on from Vanderbilt. They played in the James Franklin era. Keyshawn Vaughn is another name at running back. He was a special dude. The pride of Pearl Cone High School came in and had a really nice career with Vandy. Unfortunately, he's not working out for him too well at the NFL level, but maybe he'll find some footing there and be able to do some things in the NFL eventually. But it doesn't take away that he had a really nice career at Vandy. So hopefully we've got our list narrowed down. Hopefully you voted on the previous 3 days episodes, and just go ahead and vote on this one if you're not sure exactly what to do. But we're going to take this list at some point and have it narrowed down to, and then we're going to pick a winner. And then when we pick that winner, I will have on social media, I will have designed a game cover that depicts the winner of this competition. Maybe the gold and silver medalist for this little short tournament will they'll be honored there on the cover. And so any one of you 12 guys I would love to have you on the show and just kind of chat. I think every single one of you deserves a cover. But just to be fun and have some interaction with some Vandy fans. I think it would be a lot of fun. And again, it's nothing personal to any of these guys. And Andre Howell as well is an honorable mention too. He's one of those that at the cornerback position really excelled. But some guys that were in there that kind of overshadowed him. Corey Chavis is one of them. So just thought I'd mention him as well. So if you're a Vandy player, want to come on, the invitation is always welcome. Just follow me at Coach Burton 36 and or at Logged On Vandy. Just let me know, hey, I'd love to come by on the show and chat. Go ahead and invite yourself. It's not weird, I promise. So anyway, that's going to do it for us here. Happy Thursday. We're going to get you into the weekend on the Locked On Vandy podcast. We're going to talk a little baseball in tomorrow's episode, getting you ready for the series against Auburn. Anchor down. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Peace.